Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We're back and we're right in the middle of the fight. I haven't been out making any videos as of late, as I've been very, very busy reviewing quite a few cases of police and prosecutorial misconduct. And I mean misconduct. I'm talking about people that are sitting in prison, about to go to prison, or have just gotten out of prison because of inept police investigations and prosecutors looking to make a name for themselves. Those two situations are what plagues our criminal justice system today. Our forefathers, when they wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they guaranteed us a court system that, unlike any other court system in the world, that the defendant is innocent until proven guilty. And when you walked into that courtroom, you were innocent until the state prosecutor could convince a jury you were guilty. Now, let's get into convincing. Sometimes the dog and pony show is very convincing in a courtroom, and it sways a jury, the antics of attorneys. And that could go either way, defense or prosecution. They're very, very good at putting on a show. Some are better than others. However, what Archangels of Justice relies on is physical evidence. We don't rely on dog and pony shows. Evidence speaks of itself, plain and simple. The lack of physical evidence or the abundance of physical evidence in every case. This is where a good investigator knows their stuff. Unlike what we've seen in so many cases where police officers have either fudged evidence, destroyed evidence, or fudged their police reports and statements. I've seen murder cases where investigators do not even interview prime suspects, and let alone if they ever do talk to them, they don't even record their conversation. Complete disregard for proper police procedure. Then they walk into a prosecutor's office and convince a prosecutor they got a great case. And if this prosecutor thinks that thing's newsworthy and it might give them a couple brownie points, they may take it, especially if they think they got a good shot at winning it. If they know they're going to lose it, they won't file it. Trust me on that. If they know they're going to lose, they won't file the case because they don't want to look bad. The last thing a prosecutor wants to do is walk into a courtroom with all the might and muster of the state and lose. They look foolish. They don't do it. Let's talk about how do you protect yourself or your loved ones from falling prey to an overzealous prosecution or an arrest by a corrupt police officer, or one you don't even know is corrupt. It's called Miranda. One of the biggest things what we have found is people talk to the police or they talk to the prosecutor as if they know everything about the law. You know nothing. Unless you have a Juris Doctor, you know nothing. Remember that. Don't think you're going to outsmart or outmaneuver the police or prosecutor. All you're going to do is dig yourself a deep asshole. Plain and simple. Miranda affords you the right to remain silent. Remain silent. Here's how you remain silent. Whether or not the police say the magic words of the Miranda warning card, which has about 5 or 6 points on it, once they're finished reading it, they're going to ask you a couple questions. Do you wish to answer questions? Or would you like to have an attorney present? That's your lead. All you have to do is say, I wish to exercise my right to remain silent and have my attorney present before any questions. That's it. Those are the magic words. Other than giving your name, rank, and serial number, you're not obliged to give them anything. So why dig yourself a hole? Keep your mouth shut. It's just that simple. Next thing, hiring an attorney or a private investigator. Never ever hire a private investigator from the town you live in, especially if that investigator worked for the PD that's in question. Ever. No, because all he is or she is a good old boy from the same mess that you're trying to fight. Attorneys. God forbid you want to put a public defender. They're as bad as the prosecutors, if not worse. A lot of times we call public defenders prosecutors in disguise. They don't want to work. They went to law school, 6 years, passed the bar, and now they're making minimum wage, essentially, to be attorneys. You think they're going to work real hard for you? No, they're not. Never, ever make a deal. If you're innocent, you never say you're guilty. You never say no contest. That's the same thing as saying you're guilty. If you do those things, don't expect an appeal. We've been reviewing these cases over and over and over and over. That's what I've been spending the last several weeks doing. And all the cases I have are from people that pled guilty or pled no contest that weren't guilty. The evidence shows they weren't guilty of a crime, but they did it anyway because they were afraid to go to trial, because their attorneys scared them into believing that if they went to trial and lost, their sentencing would be harsh. Well, if you're innocent and you're locked up, how is that not harsh? We have to change the system. We have to force police officers to do their job the way it's intended to be done, and prosecutors to do their job. We've got to get politicians out of law enforcement and out of the criminal justice system, and God, get the media out of it, because they surely are not helping. All they do is sensationalize things. You have cases all over this country of people in prison that don't belong in prison. And that's the God's honest truth. That's a lot of people out there that are locked up that don't belong in prison. I know this is a little bit off the mark of what we've talked about in general, but this needs to be said. This is the reason why we have the Molly Youngs and the Praveen Vargheses and the Sheena Morrises and the Michelle O'Connell cases, because the inept capabilities of the police and the cover-up squads that work for them. So whether they're locking somebody up for life that doesn't belong in prison, or they're burying your loved one as a suicide when it's a murder, it's because of misconduct. It's because of a common course of misconduct that needs to change in this country. And this year, we're lighting a fire to change it. Are you with us? Because Ira and I are fired up to get this changed. And we're going to make all the noise, and we're going to go down the right roads, and we're going to push to get agencies with oversight over them. And it should be civilian review boards that oversight, because you cannot trust them to clean their own house. Remember that. You will never get a law enforcement agency to clean its own house. They'll only clean out the ones that don't play ball the way the boss wants them to. Remember that, because that is a fact.